everyone, and welcome to the Women of the World podcast. We are here today to start our journey of having meaningful conversations with powerful women. And so we're super excited to have you here. Also, if you're looking for our content, then you can find that at Wow the Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and at our website. And my first guest is Tandy Pryor. So excited to introduce her today. So,
yay! Thank you.
Tandy, thank you for coming on the show. I very, very much appreciate that. If you would quickly tell our guests what you do.
Well, 12 years ago, I started a business where I'm a business and life coach for women. And it's been one of the most amazing life journeys ever.
That's fantastic. And I know that you bring a touch of feng shui to your practice. And so that's where we're going to start today. I am a busy woman. I own 3 small businesses. I have a 3-year-old at home. I have a lot of things going on in my life. The first time I saw Tandy speak was actually at a public community function, and I heard you give a couple of tips to the audience. They were little freebies that you gave the audience. I actually went home. I employed some of those tips. My best friend was in town, and so I said, hey, we're going to give feng shui a shot. And she was like, what does that mean? And I was like, I have no idea. But I learned these tips, and we're going to give them a shot and see what happens. And then that weekend, we had the biggest weekend that we've ever had in January at my winery. And so that gave me this little, okay, that lady has something. And so I reached out to Tandy, and that's how we're sitting here today. So Tandy, if you would spend a few minutes talking to us about feng shui, why it matters, how do people employ this in their lives in a practical fashion?
Well, that's one of my tools in my toolbox to really help women get what they want, whether it's more money, more personal power, the ability to say no when they need to say no, and the ability to really step in the ownership in their life and in their business. There's no, how do I want to say this, easier way than to use your physical space, whether it's your home or your office. Mm-hmm. It is think of it as a 3D vision board. I know vision boards are all the rage these days. Uh-huh. And people, they gather up and they make these vision boards and they go home and they take it to their office or their home of all the things they want to bring in. And in that room, there's a heaviness. They have things from when they were married that the husband bought, maybe the ex-husband bought, or perhaps they had a family member that they didn't want to get rid of furniture, even though that person wasn't beneficial in their life. Mm-hmm. Your physical environment you and your physical environment are intimately connected, way more than most people realize. And in our culture, in our society, we're not really taught that. So focusing on your office, on your home is a way to really get a breakthrough. If you give me a minute in somebody's home or their office, I can see where they're blocked. Mm-hmm. I can see where the things they want, why they're stopping them, and how they're using that to stop them. So bring in the 3D vision board into a space that isn't supportive of where they want to go. It's a good practice, and sometimes it may work, but there's an easier way to do it. Mm-hmm. And that may be by decluttering. It may be by power positioning. I think I talked about that.
You did.
Yeah. So what were the things, I'm trying to remember what in that, I did a lot of speaking. Mm-hmm. What were those specific things that I recommended?
So there are 2 things that I remember.
Okay.
And so I did it both in my bedroom and then in my son's bedroom. Okay. And so I moved the bed into the power position in both bedrooms, which took it off of an interior wall and got it where it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I remember specifically was you talking about what hangs above your bed in your home. And now this is not something I've ever thought about. My brain was like, artistic, I want something beautiful there. And so Clint and I went to Spain a few years ago, and I saw this beautiful painting there. And it was one that I just couldn't, my friends literally had to drag me away from this painting. I could have spent 17 years staring at it. And so it was huge. It was like 10 feet tall, and it was these 3 big panels. So we come back from Spain, I get online, of course, and I buy a copy of this. Here's the thing, the piece of art itself is a representation of heaven, earth, and hell. And so it's very thought-provoking, but it's this tumultuous thing. Yeah. And that's what I had hanging over our bed. And so I moved it to the correct position. I got on Etsy, I bought something light, and it's literally feathers made out of crochet. It's beautiful. And so what I can say is that Clint and I, our relationship over the course of the last year has grown and developed in ways that I maybe would have never thought were possible. And so I don't know that was the whole piece, but it was definitely part of it. Our communication has improved rapidly since the moving of that painting. And for me, the moving of the bed, in the last year, I've really taken ownership of my businesses and of my life and of my own power. Again, that's what we're talking about today, that power. But having my bed in the power position physically is a representation of that. And so those are the two things that I remember the most clearly.
Yes, and when I go to speak about this, because like I said, it's one tool when I help people get what they want. Mm-hmm. How impactful is that when your personal life is aligned with where you want to go? Your business life follows right along with it. And people don't think about that. I remember I went to somebody's house in Cincinnati, and over the bed they had warring ships in oil painting, and it had been his grandfather's and it had to be there. Well, they were divorcing, and it was not pretty. Mm-hmm. So for her, that's the first thing we took down, that, because that actually manifested like that. It is at the bottom line of all of the things like we're talking about when I was talking about vision boards, and I was talking about your home or office being a 3D vision board that you can use. Your intention trumps everything. Mm-hmm. Your intention is what matters. Your intention, like when you described that picture, how you loved it, like that needs to be somewhere really important, just not over your bed.
Right.
When you're trying to work on a marriage, I mean, when you own businesses and you've got a child, working on your relationship is equally as important. Mm-hmm. So when I do business coaching, the personal is always woven in. Mm-hmm. And I always begin with the physical space because I can see where there's gaps or where there's intimacy gaps or where they're blocking money. Like I had somebody that came to me for money issues and literally the door was blocked for that area. So I have a map, by the way. If anybody wants a map, I'm happy to provide one. Just let me know.
You need the map.
And it's a map, but it just helps guide you, and your intention takes it to the next level. But if you have the door shut and the room full of clutter and things that aren't loved, wanted, or used, you're literally blocking it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and practical application. So when we decided to create this podcast, and we were trying to decide where we were going to shoot it, the first place I said is on the stage of the theater. Why? Because this is the corner of fame and reputation that exists in this particular building. And so Oprah's going to give me a call soon, I'm sure.
Right.
And so...
Right. I believe that.
But it's a good guide, It's the map is a good guide for me. So,
yes.
So then let's talk about, do you want to give any practical tips? Is there anything besides obviously we talked about the over the headboard and the power position for your bed. Any other key things that you're like, you need to know this?
We didn't really talk about the power position, and that's really important. You need to be able to be in your bed and see the door or somebody walking into the door, but you don't want your feet lined up with the door heading out. That allows you to sleep better. Most people sleep changes like that. Another big thing with business, if you're not sleeping well because the door's over here behind you and you can't see, we still have instincts that are from the beginning of time. So power positioning, it's the same with your couch in your living room, same thing. And children, you were talking about putting it in the baby's room. He's not a baby anymore, but he's so cute. But he's adorable. So positioning his bed, it allows him to sleep. I've worked with a lot of families through the years. So when I very first started, like 12 years ago, 15 for that. Kids that aren't sleeping well, they act out. They have all those things. So it really helps empower them in their life. So power positioning. And what was the other thing we talked about? We talked about the map.
About the map, we talked about the power position, we talked about what's hanging above your headboard.
Oh, yeah.
One of your favorite things, one of my favorite things that you talk about though is the nightstand and the balance.
Oh my gosh, I could do a whole show on the nightstands. Because when there's an imbalance in the marriage, it will or there's trouble. And an imbalance, it will always show in the nightstands. Like one will have a weak little wobbly one, and the one that's really in control will have a big sturdy one with a big lamp, and it will show in there. I've seen it over and over and over again. And I think I laugh at myself when I hear myself saying these things, but when you see that and it's true over and over and over again, there's something to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's a big one. Having matching equal bedside stands to start. Sometimes that is one of the best ways to start leveling up the relationship. There's always a balance in relationships, whether it's business or personal. Sometimes they can get out of balance. Somebody gets a little more power. Somebody can actually hand over the power because that's what their mother did. That's what my people do. I've heard people say that. And they hand the checkbook, they hand the money, they hand the power over. And to get it back, that's one of the ways where we begin.
Yeah.
That's just
Balance your nightstands, guys.
Well, and you go, right? And you go home to these physical spaces and you're launching from that every morning. It matters.
It does.
Yeah, so it's a big focus to look at your physical space and how it impacts.
Yeah, for sure. And so the feng shui is how we started working together. You didn't even know that I was in the audience listening and taking tips. We had never actually met before that point. And so then I reached out to you, and since then we've been working together with you as my life and business coach. And so that's been incredibly valuable to me. But if you would, take a few moments and tell our guests about what that means, the importance of using the words life and business coach, and kind of how those two things work together.
Yeah, so that one impacts the other, so there has to be a balance and equality in both. And each person that comes in front of me is so different, and I think that that's why the success I have is because every single person is different. Their background's different, their life history's different. Every person shows up with different problems and they want different things in life. And so we talk about whatever's coming up for them on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. We address that. Most people really want to change. And it's the day-to-day actions. It's the accountability. It's the having someone see what you don't know that you don't know. Like, I pay for coaching because I need that if I'm helping somebody else. But having someone help you can take you out of suffering and resistance and continually saying you want something and not getting it. Having an outside person that really has your back and is willing to tell you how you're getting in the way. And then here's the steps to really change that and implement and be with you in the implementation part of it. And also to be with you and hold your hand when it's not always fun. Because what you want is oftentimes on the other side of something very difficult.
Of some not fun stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like you see my blind spots. Everybody has blind spots.
Thank you. That's
You're
a much
welcome.
better
Tandy sees my blind spots. So, and I think one of my favorite things, because I can be a, I don't want to say intimidating, but I can be a spicy person, you know.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of big ideas. I have a lot of plans. I have a lot of energy to implement those plans. I have a zillion things going on. And yet what I know about you is that you are absolutely never afraid to say, Elisha, what is that? Put that up. Or where did that come from? Or where is that getting you? Or hold on. Did you even hear what I just said? So you're very good. So talk about that a little bit.
That is a skill, and I think it comes with maturity and doing this for a long time and getting over being worried that I'm going to make you mad, because there's plenty of coaches out there that are so committed to being liked, they won't stand up when they need to stand up and call you out. That's when you know you have good support and you have a good coach. They're willing to call you on your stuff, which is why you hire them. And I seem to really have amazing clients that are strong. And it takes somebody strong to push back and go, whoa, why aren't you listening to what I'm saying there? You skipped over it. Come back. What, we call that in some of my training already always listening. Yeah, I heard you. I'm going to the next thing. And being willing to go, whoa, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, what is
that?
What
what's
is
going
that?
on?
I remember one of the times, I don't know if it was the first time you really did it. It's the one I remember though. And so I had committed something to you and then I didn't do it. and then I committed something else to you, and then I didn't do it. And so instead of, you were able to approach me in such a way with compassion and with kindness. And Elisha, the way you show up one way, the way you show up for this thing, for anything, is the way you show up for everything. So where else in your life are you making commitments that you're not following through on that? And it was true. It was so true. I looked at my life at that point, and there were so many areas where I was either overcommitted or committing to do things I don't want to do. And so that happens to everybody at some point, right? And so I'm committing to do things I don't want to do. So then I don't do them well, or I don't do them at all. And so it caused me to take a step back and go, wait a minute. Before I commit to these things, I need to make sure that I want to do these things. Is that how I want to spend my time? Is that what I want to be focused on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, or on Friday at 6 o'clock when my family is at home? What am I committed to? And so it put like a laser focus on that for a short period of time. And the difference over time has been just monumental for me. So when I look at my schedule now, I am committed to things that I want to do.
And
that's it.
I love that you brought that up, because that's one of the most difficult things, but I feel like it's at the center of a lot of my work is that you are your word. Before we had contracts, before we signed checks, before we had anything, back to the beginning, there was only you and your word.
And that was it. That was all you had to count
That's all
on
you
people.
had. And so you had to have integrity. And I found myself out of integrity all over the place, like saying I would do this and that and not showing up and being late. That's another one, not being integrity is being late all the time.
Yeah.
Saying you'll do something and then not showing up. It is one of the most difficult things when I have clients. I'm like, okay, for the next week, everybody wants to try this one.
It's
for
fun,
the
guys.
next week. No breaking your word at all. When you say you're going to play with the kids after dinner, you play with them. When you say you're going to get up every day at 7 and you're going to walk, then you do it. Like no room. I have seen people just about come out of their skin because it's so difficult.
Yeah.
If you're not used to doing it. But I think for coaching, for me, one of the biggest gifts that I got when I started on this journey at 50, I'm now 62, was creating a container for myself and to teach this piece. It's one of the things that will heal people that are having trouble feeling good about themselves. Most people would not realize that. People that aren't feeling great about themselves are constantly over-promising and either over-delivering or really, really under-delivering. And it's one of the ways to start healing your life in a whole different way you may not have thought of.
Well, and then operating from that place of integrity, it's so building for my self-confidence. It's given me a foundation in a way that I didn't understand. So definitely try it for a week, because you can feel the impacts quickly in that size of a container. So
there's one piece about that I think is important to say. When people start to keep their word, they'll often keep their word for other people, but they don't keep it to themselves.
Oh no, it's an all-in commitment. You have to keep it to yourself as well.
Right. And it's easy to break commitments to yourself. Most people, that's the thing I see the most. They're much more likely to go, I said I would be at such and such at a time. But when it comes to themselves.
Right. I'm going to get up in the morning and meditate for 15 minutes before I go to work.
And it's really about having the deepest sense of joy and peacefulness within yourself, because you know yourself.
Yeah. You can rest easy in that. All right, Tandy, well, I have one last question for you. So
Okay.
This question is a fun one for me. And so the question is, what is your superpower? And I asked this question for myself. I have several superpowers. The specific one I'm referring to is synthesis of data. It's what makes me a good entrepreneur. It's what makes me quick on my feet for big events and festivals and those kind of things. But that isn't something that I saw in myself. It is something that someone else told me. A person who's a bit of a sage in my world said to me, Elisha, you just have this superpower for synthesis of data. And so because So it's important to tell people what you think their superpowers are along the way, obviously. And so, but because that was pointed out to me, it is a skill that I am consistently working with and cultivating and being curious about, and it's something that's very helpful for me in life. And so, and I think women shy away from saying out loud, I have this superpower. And so I want to empower people to own your superpowers, know the value of your skill sets and what they bring you in life. And so tell me, Tandy, what is your superpower? And tell me a little bit about how you use it.
Hands down, I know it. It's intuition.
Yeah, I would give you that one for sure.
It's intuition. It's under everything that we're talking about. It's underneath being able to see where someone's blocked. It's underneath being able to see somebody's physical space and why it is or isn't working for them and why. It's underneath seeing how there's a lack of boundaries and how that's playing out. It's in everything. And I always had it, but I denied it.
Okay.
I spent a lot of years rebelling and carrying on.
Ignoring it, saying
ignoring
stop telling me
just
stuff.
being like, and growing up in a small town, it was something else. And in my 30s, I was having little wake-up calls, I would say, but I had a full-on near-death experience during delivery of one of my kids. And from then on, there was no denying it.
Right. It woke you up.
It woke me up and it woke up. Like there was no more messing around. It's kind of like being taken by the shoulders and this is what you're here to do.
And so then if someone wants to cultivate their own sense of intuition, because obviously you're saying that you're much better at using it now, and it's the underlying for everything that you do. So if you're looking to grow your that skill set, how does someone do that?
I think every person is different. Some people ramp up their intuition in nature. Some people ramp up their intuition in yoga. I think if you're going across the board, there are things you can learn. Like I had a lot of mentors that helped me. I think ultimately, I think there's some people that just like there's really professional tennis players, and then there's some people in the backyard. I think everybody has some, you know what I mean, on a backyard court.
Yeah, okay.
That can play. And I think that there's some people that really have a lot of intuition and don't use it. And I think everybody has some.
So is it like a muscle? The more you use it, the bigger it grows?
I think it depends on the person. And I think it depends on life situation. And I think if you have that intention, you can grow it. I would say, if you're going to ask me like one thing, I would 100% say meditation.
Okay.
I mean, if that's what you really want to grow and that's something that you want to cultivate, I would say that's like, there's lots of different ways, right? But I think if I had to have a blanket way, that's probably it.
Nice.
Yeah. For me, it's an innate, it always came to me naturally. And I have one kid all three of my kids are really intuitive, but some are just more, it's almost a grounded way of being. It's instinct. I think
for me, the more I use it, the more it shows up. I too have spent a good deal of time being like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is not, no doubts. I'm moving forward. We're going on this train. And that never works if your intuition's telling you to do something else, by the way. Like that never works out well. And so the more I pay attention to it, the more I'm able to connect with it. And whereas I definitely spent a good chunk of life running away from it, now I'm checking with it before I make a decision. And I would definitely say that for me, yoga and meditation, cultivating those practices has helped me with that particular piece.
Yeah. And like I said, I think everybody's different. And I think what you're saying is true. If your intention is to do that, waking up to it, a lot of athletes use it and they have no idea that's what they're using.
Oh, they don't have the label for it.
They don't have the label for it. That's the instinct piece. There's all kinds. So it's, for me, like, I think we're seeing it from like different tops of the mountain kind of thing. Like we're just looking at it differently, but yes, to everything you said. And I think it just, if that's something somebody wants, you can cultivate it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Tandy, do you have any last minute comments, tips, or tricks for our watchers? We've reached the end of our show.
I think that we've gone over most things, and we have covered a lot of it. And like I said, if they would like a little map, I'm happy to give a map.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's a Bagua map that kind of shows the areas that we talked about. And
If they wanted to reach you, where would they find that information?
TandyPryorCoaching.com is probably the best way. It's Pryor. I am on Facebook and Instagram too, and my website.
Nice. So they can
Yeah.
get you through all the social media
Yeah.
and website channels. So, well, Tandy, thank you so much for coming and being our inaugural guest for the Women of the World podcast. I'm super excited to have had you. I think we've had some great conversations. This is a great place to start with meaningful conversations with powerful women.